Snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Concealed, don't let... Hey, who killed the music?
Really, TAP-G? Really? A Let It Go cover video? Is there any horse deader than that?
Well, my video was going to be different.
Yeah, you and everyone else's.
No, seriously. It was going to be an internet critic in a cowboy hat behind a fancy cover art.
Okay then, I'm just going to file that video in the same file as your Jersey Shore audition.
Ugh.
But you know what? I just had myself a thought.
That maybe you can be a bit harsh in your means to censor my creative spirit?
No. Have you noticed how big a hit Frozen has been?
You mean the film whose characters have spawned lines at Epcot and Magic Kingdom, clocking in at over 6 hours? Blip on my radar.
6th highest grossing film of all time, highest grossing animated film ever, won 2 Oscars, #1 hit song,
Let It Go!
Don't Start. And now there's all this speculation about what may or may not happen in the coming years with Frozen at the DisneyParks.
Maybe we should get in on that.
Right, and speculate and discuss these events. Like what could or should happen to Anna, Elsa, and the gang. You know, from a purely speculative point of view.
Nifty. Now, if only we had a website or a blog or something to share our ideas with the public and... Oh, right.
Who are we to look away from such a monumental hit and freely guess what the future holds? Today, folks, we're going to discuss the future of Frozen at Walt Disney World. Let's take a look at the first question. Number 1. Does Frozen have the qualities to be an enduring animated film?
Well, I think the first question we have to look at is it a timely film or a timeless film?
I think in some ways it does date itself a little bit, but only a little bit.
Only in terms of theming. It's not like, for example, the Aristocats, where they had a Tiffany lamp and then turned into a 70s psychedelic light show.
True that.
And maybe you could pick it up from some of the dialogue, but for the most part, it's pretty timeless.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of that timeless quality to it, and I think that, you know, we have films like The Little Mermaid that continue to persist and get made musicals of and other such things.
Oh, yeah.
And there's films like Beauty and the Beast, who, far be it from me to say that this film would not be timeless in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. It's most definitely timeless. And Disney continues to make use of it. Mm-hmm. The question is, will Frozen go through that same thing? I think that's very much a yes.
I think in a lot of ways it does speak out on a bunch of different themes. I mean, there have been so many people who've been dissecting what Elsa means in her song Let It Go. And of course, on the surface, it's about her trying to escape from the pressures of being royalty and having ice powers. And then people can interpret that anything from a feminist movement or the homosexual movement, and in so many ways that can be very easily interpreted. And one thing that does make a film stand out in a legacy is, can it be interpreted in the proper way that's memorable?
I think that's definitely a yes. But in part, we're going to have to wait a few years.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to have to wait and see if Frozen continues to persist in media.
Yeah. Will
the Anna and Elsa meet and greet continue?
Absolutely. As long as you have a strong figure like Elsa who's relatable as either someone you know or you see in yourself, and then you have Anna, who's a lot like Rapunzel. We see a ton of Rapunzel merchandise, who's
True.
just a simple dork. And people gravitate towards that. The songs, they're beautiful. They remind me of like the early Alan Menken songs. They are very timeless and they're very classic.
I'm really glad that they got like a new musical team in there to write these songs.
Yeah, I think with Alan Menken, it would have been good, but it wouldn't have been great. Because I think he is losing a lot of steam lately. As much as a fan of Alan Menken I am. Animation, stunning.
Phenomenal.
So, I think it does have the capacity to endure, but we just don't know for certain. I mean, look at what happened the year before with Wreck-It Ralph. That was the film everyone I knew talked about and said, this was revolutionary, it was new, it was exciting, but it just kind of petered out.
Yeah, it just vanished.
I don't know if it's going to resurge as a retro piece years down the line, but I think the whole video game thing, the very urban themes to it, and not to mention there's an undertone of dissatisfaction, as weird as that may sound, throughout the film.
Yeah, because that sounds like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, because the whole story of going and finding a new identity in a new world, that's never anything new, whether it's Little Mermaid or Tangled or Pinocchio on the other extreme. But I'm talking about, like, have you noticed how many times the characters call each other names in Wreck-It Ralph?
Names? Like bad names?
Yeah. Like, I mean, remember just the simple goodbye scene when Ralph is saying goodbye to Vanellope. Farewell, Baroness Boogers, and so long, Captain Underpants, or the Children of the Candy Corn, or that cherry-chasing Dot Muncher, just a few other names that are being called in the movie.
Yeah, it has very much an air of negativity to it.
As opposed to Frozen, which is almost nothing but love.
And positivity.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of frustration and anxiety, whether it's Elsa or Hans, but then you have a character like Olaf, which is pretty much Disney's better version of SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's a little strange to me, but I think I'll just run with it.
I can't stand SpongeBob, but the idea is the same. They're both characters that are full of love and effervescent personality. It's just that Olaf is a little more toned down.
Yeah. Why don't we move on to the next question?
All right.
Number 2. Would Frozen do better as a ride or as a show?
I say count on 3. We say what we want. 1, 2, 3. Show!
Definitely. I mean, Beauty and the Beast, like, just going again off of the Beauty and the Beast example.
Yeah.
That is a show, it has a lot of great music, and, there's little bits of story in there, but it's mostly anchored by its music. Now, just imagine a stadium filled with tons of people, with everybody belting out their own rendition of Let It Go.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Now, I think one of the things that makes it less adaptable as a ride is the fact that there isn't much action element to Frozen. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great things that happen in Beauty and the Beast and Frozen, but there isn't many things that you can just take from that and adapt, at least very easily, into a ride.
Unfortunately, I just don't think there's a lot that happens that isn't inward character development.
Yeah.
Which is much better suited for a show.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention just the songs itself. I mean, what is more rewarding than singing Let It Go, or Do You Want to Build a Snowman, or whatever, and
or
just
in summer.
Or in summer, and just have everyone singing along, clapping along, like Legend of the Lion King.
Yeah, or, even just Festival of the Lion King and over in Animal Kingdom.
That's what I meant. Yeah, Festival over Animal Kingdom. So, in a lot of ways, I think it does a lot better because of the music and the minimal action. And honestly, if I had any input on this, I would suggest this would either replace Beauty and the Beast at Theater of the Stars in Hollywood Studios, or at the Premier Theater.
The Premier Theater, where is that?
If you go, if you're in Hollywood Studios and you're over by where Lightning McQueen...
Is that by Streets of America?
By Streets of America.
Behind the
San Francisco backdrop.
I get it. I got it, and that would be a perfect place for it.
For those who don't remember, that is where they used to do the old Hunchback of Notre Dame musical spectacular show. These days, it's been empty. It's been empty for a long, long time.
Not necessarily. They've been doing a few small things with it.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's either for like cast member events, or every now and then they'll open up for the Star Wars weekends. But if they could just use that as a Frozen space, I would be all for it.
You know what could be another great idea? Rotate Beauty and the Beast and Frozen on a semi-regular basis.
That's true. It could be like a holiday show for the winter.
Yeah, or either that, or it just switches out every week, maybe every other couple of days or so.
Yeah, but I think that'd be a lot of the changing of the sets and...
True.
I mean, I'm sure it could work, like Mickey's Magical Map over at Disneyland, but I think this would, but I think if they were to make it one single stationary show, I would say Premier Theater, and Theater of the Stars is my second option. What's our third question?
Oh, we actually have one from a Facebook fan.
Jorge X. Arnoldson. Thank you for this question.
It's what are SurferClock and TAP-G's thoughts about the Maelstrom ride rumored to be replaced by a Frozen themed attraction? This is a very interesting question. Thank you, by the way. We're not sure whether you're Jorge or George. I guess we'll get a response on Facebook or YouTube about that. But I think they don't have to do too much to overlay with a Frozen theme.
I have to agree with you there, because if I could be allowed a moment to armchair Imagineer here. Okay. You're not riding in a boat anymore. You're riding in a sled, and of course, a lot of people have been speculating that. Say that Anna and Kristoff and Olaf, they're sending you off to go to Elsa's ice palace. So you're going through the countryside of Arendelle, and then you go into where all the trolls are. They're playing with your boat or your sled, and they accidentally push you backward. And it's not until Kristoff, riding on Sven, comes in, ropes your boat, and pulls you forward again.
Okay, that could be kind of cool.
And then when you go down the waterfall, instead of the oil rig, that's Elsa's castle. And then when you unload, you've arrived at her castle. If they wanted to go a very simplified route, I think that would be the best way to go.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, this is just me armchair Imagineering, and I know how it works. Now that I've said it, it's never going to happen.
It's probably not going to happen like that. But I also kind of had issues where I've had the thought that Norway, the people who helped set up the pavilion, I thought they might have had a problem with it. But I've actually had discussions with a few of my friends, and most of them say they would probably be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Of course, it really depends on who you talk to.
Exactly.
I think the big thing we were really concerned about is if they kept Frozen in the Norway pavilion, whether a ride or characters or whatever, as long as it maintains the nationality's integrity and dignity, we're okay with it. Yeah,
as long as it's still a tribute to Norway and not just strictly to Arendelle.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would be okay with it, and I think all of us would be okay with it.
But I think we'd have to compare it to the Grand Fiesta Tour next door, the Three Caballeros. As awesome as El Rio de Tiempo was, it was boring, very dry. But now Grand Fiesta Tour has become one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's we should definitely get around to reviewing that sometime.
Definitely, amigo.
Mm-hmm.
And
question: are you done with this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Question number 4. If Disney were to add any Frozen elements to an existing attraction, where should they go and why? Kind of lending us to the last question that we got.
Well, I would say definitely, why not put it in the end show at the end of the Maelstrom ride? The one that everyone walks right by as soon as they get off Maelstrom.
True. I mean, if you sit and watch it one time, you feel like you never have to see it again.
Yeah, it's very forgettable. I've forgotten what's about it. What country is it about?
Norway?
Oh, yeah, Norway. So Arendelle, right?
Norway?
I totally remember that. Not anymore.
Okay. Yeah, but stepping outside of the whole Maelstrom thing, I think the meet and greet at the Magic Kingdom was probably the best move.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even go as far as to say you could maybe pull off something at Epcot with a few of the other characters, but other characters we're going to go into in a later question.
But what about the more adaptable attractions like Magic of Disney Animation at Hollywood Studios, or Mickey's PhilharMagic, or even Fantasmic or Wishes?
Fantasmic, that would actually probably be a pretty good fit.
I would imagine if it were put in there, I would love to see it replace the Pocahontas segment. I got nothing against Pocahontas or the fans, but it was a movie that was very poorly received, despite having the biggest opening for a movie ever in 1995. But but what do they have in California? They have Peter Pan instead,
which is a much more recognizable.
Yeah, because they have a pirate ship. I don't know, colonists and the Native Americans shooting at each other. I'm just as interesting as it is. I think if it got a Let It Go makeover, I think that would be awesome. But I think they'd have to wait a few years before that became significant enough.
Yeah, a lot of this is really going to depend on how well Frozen continues to do over the long run.
Yeah. Magic of Disney Animation, sure, if they can find a place for it. Wishes could be cool. If they had a bunch of blue fireworks and pretended that was Elsa's ice magic flying through the sky.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
And PhilharMagic, but I think we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
What's question number 5?
Question 5. Was it the right decision to move Anna and Elsa from the Norway Pavilion to the Magic Kingdom? Yes, it most definitely was.
Yes.
But no.
Well, here's my thing. Number 1, having the characters in the Norway Pavilion brought a lot of people to the Norway Pavilion, where Before then, the biggest draws were Maelstrom and Arcachus.
Yeah.
So there's that. The other thing is that, yeah, they do belong in the Magic Kingdom with the other princesses, and it is definitely made for longer lines, far more than Norway is.
Yeah.
So there's that. However, I think the timing is really bad.
How do you figure?
Well, they just started there April 20th, right at the start of summer, like the start, like right before the starting line. Now, there's that, and also on May 28th, as a lot of you may know, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train will officially open. So there's going to be a brand new roller coaster in Fantasyland about 20 feet away from where the 5-hour lines to meet Anna and Elsa are. This is going to be one of the worst summers to come to the Magic Kingdom because the crowds are going to be insane. I think in a lot of ways it was a right move, but I do think that having them in Norway was more appropriate. Maybe if they could add an additional meet and greet at both spots, that would be great. But I think in the short term, it was a really not well thought out move.
I think it remains to be seen whether or not this is really going to cause the kind of foul ups that we predict it's going to cause.
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, the whole Seven Dwarfs Mine Train thing, number one, that should have been opened with New Fantasyland.
Yeah.
I feel like that they opened New Fantasyland, it wasn't a complete land. They really needed that anchor of a new e-ticket attraction.
Because right now, all people see in New Fantasyland is Dumbo, the thing with Little Mermaid, and Beauty and the Beast restaurant that serves alcohol.
And in the new Enchanted Tales with Belle.
Oh, I'm not saying that's not there. I'm just saying, from what I've seen, people perceive New Fantasyland as, and a whole bunch of walls around the big center part.
Yeah, it'll be nice to finally get those walls removed and just to have everything finally revealed.
You know, Disney tried this years and years ago when they first opened Toontown back in 1993 at Disneyland. They were planning on setting up the surrounding areas, and then their last thing they were going to do was add the Roger Rabbit ride, and that's what they did. And what inevitably happened was, yay, this ride kind of is there. And for the most part, people still think Toontown is only for kids. So unfortunately, I think Disney may run into that stigma for a little while.
At least until people realize it's there, and from what we've seen, it looks like a pretty cool ride.
At least it's much more prolific.
Can't wait to get to ride it ourselves.
Yeah. Kind of jealous of some of our friends in the Enterprise. Like, Banksley, we wish we could have been on that coaster with you.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I feel like the decision was a good decision to move them. And like I said, to me it remains to be seen whether or not this is really going to cause this kind of foul-ups.
Mm-hmm.
If it does really cause that area to be clogged up, I may rescind that decision. Mm-hmm. But until then, good move on them.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go to the next question?
Sure, why not? Question number 6. If Disney were to add any more characters of the Frozen meet and greet lineup, who could be added to the roster? Whew.
This is actually really difficult.
Yeah.
We really had to actually go back and look at Frozen and see the characters and what their potential is for a meet and greet.
Well, let's take a look. Well, one of the big things is that it kind of reminds me of The Emperor's New Groove in that there's such a small cast of characters, at least memorable cast.
Yes.
Emperor's New Groove, there's 4. You have Kuzco, Pacha, Kronk, and Yzma. Whereas here you have Olaf, Kristoff, Hans, Sven, and the Duke, and of course Anna and Elsa.
Yeah.
Still pretty small for a major blockbuster. Of course, we have Anna and Elsa. Let's talk about Olaf. He had a short meet and greet for the Show Your Disney Side event.
Yes.
And I think that was good for what it was. I think if they had Olaf as a regular meet and greet, that would be a lot of problems.
What's the biggest problem that Olaf has as a meet and greet character, you think?
Well, there's 2. One is the fact that he has very tiny legs. And usually, whenever you have a character out and about that has small legs, they're usually lengthened. I mean, just look at Tigger.
Yeah.
The second is that Olaf does not bend his arms. You never thought about that, guys, have you? Watch the movie again and ask yourself how many times does Olaf bend his arms? Only once, and that's during his In Summer segment. The rest of the time, they're kept very stiff, but he can bend his fingers. So
much for warm hugs, huh?
Yeah, right? I mean, I guess people can still hug him and maybe feel like snow.
I I don't know.
That's really weird.
From what it sounds like, he wouldn't be that great a meet and greet character.
Probably not. So, unfortunately, I just don't think that would come to pass.
Photo opportunity, yes. Meet and greet, not so much.
Maybe like what they have at Disneyland, just a little animatronic above the meet and greet where he just goes like, "Hi, where are y'all from?"
That actually wouldn't be a bad idea. I kind of like that notion.
Christoph.
He's not that memorable.
I mean, he was a good guy. He was a good character, and I'm glad he was in it. But yeah, I want to go to Disney and meet the character who talks about guys who pick their noses and eat their boogers.
Yeah, like this is I just don't see him being a really good, not a solid meet and greet character.
Yeah,
I could see the ladies maybe wanting to meet him.
He's not as interesting as the other Disney princes. Even Flynn Rider. Even though Flynn Rider has a great personality, he still pales in comparison to characters like Aladdin.
He can't smolder with the best of them.
No. Hans.
Not just a no, but a heck no.
I would imagine that if Hans ever appeared on stage during the next version of Hades' Hangout, the Unleash the Villains, he would probably get booed off stage. Because I think we have officially found the first Disney villain that everyone hates to hate.
Yeah, it's actually a legitimate hate.
I mean, this guy was just such a scum of the universe that I think there's very few people out there who care for him. We know tons of people who love Chernabog and Ursula, Maleficent. They're nasty people. But the moment he says that line, instantly he was on everyone's hate list.
Yeah.
I would be afraid if he was out and about doing character meet and greets that he might actually get assaulted.
Yeah. I mean, even though Disney is supposed to be a family-friendly image and it's, they say don't do anything to the characters, it would be really hard to protect him, I think.
Yeah, there's just enough vindictive people out there. Maybe he'd be like Betty Boop over at Universal and have to have security hanging out by him.
That's true.
Probably disguised as one of his henchmen or a guard or something. I don't know. The only other characters worth mentioning are Sven, the reindeer. No. And the Duke.
You mean... Oh, the Duke of Weselton.
Weaseltown.
Oh.
Weaselton? I forget. But even then, yeah,
he's not really... He's more of a bit character.
He was a red herring in the film. And as much as I liked him, and as appealing as he is, he wasn't all that memorable. He definitely paled in comparison to Hans.
Yeah.
So... The Duke could be fun, but I think out of all these characters, Kristoff would be the best bet, and even then, that's a very distant if.
Very much so.
Alright, question number 7. What do we think of Disney and its limited availability of Frozen-themed merchandise? Are they doing this intentionally?
The answer to this is a resounding yes. Disney knows its market. They know how ravenous the consumers are. And by making things available on a limited basis, they are playing to the whole demand thing.
You know what cracks me up most about this?
What's that?
I'm having flashbacks back to the 90s when watching, when the next big Disney blockbuster would come out. And you would see ads for Pocahontas and The Lion King and Hunchback and Hercules. And every summer you would see McDonald's and every store putting out all these ads. Every candy company, every toy company with all the toys of this brand new anime film. And they were out there like crazy. The 90s was the age of marketing to the extreme.
Yeah, there are all kinds of toys and stuff. But this actually makes me realize something very interesting.
Yeah.
There were never any Frozen Happy Meal toys.
No, there weren't.
There were never any, giveaways of Frozen stuff. You had to get out there and you had to buy it.
In fact, I'm starting to think now that Tarzan was kind of the last of them. After that, you had Fantasia 2000. You kind of had Dinosaur. Didn't have anything for Emperor's New Groove. Movies like Treasure Planet and Atlantis, they bombed, so there was something of a marketing there, but it was dying very quickly.
Yeah, all that stuff got pulled when they realized the movies were bombs.
I think Lilo and Stitch was probably the last one that ever did any substantial marketing. And since then, Disney has more or less stayed out of the game, at least when it comes to over-marketing for children. And with Frozen, it's all the more surprising since it has this huge prominence and it's out there and it's all the time. And yet at the same time, we don't see any marketing for it. We just see the ads for the movie on TV.
Pretty much. What we went through in the 90s was the McDonald'sization of marketing.
Yeah.
it was just this intense, give the kids everything that they possibly can, get the toys in their hands, so that when they have these toys and the parents wonder, oh, hey, what's that from? This is from that blah 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 movie. Let's go see it.
Yeah.
And that they were trying at that point, they were trying to get butts into seats at movie theaters.
Yeah.
Whereas now, people's butts go to the seats in the movie theaters, and now they have to try and sell all this merchandise.
Yeah.
So it's a complete 180 of what used to happen.
Yeah.
Back when we were kids.
And once again, I'm even reminded back to Wreck-It Ralph, where the merchandise, there's so limited merchandise that was available. And try finding Wreck-It Ralph merchandise today.
You can't.
Whereas I'm sure you can still find some leftover merchandise at a flea market of the Lion King or something.
Yeah, Lion King was definitely one of those very, very heavily marketed kids' films.
I had all the action figures of that and Aladdin.
I had all the plates. I had the sets of the books. They came out with a bunch of like little stories. Mm-hmm. I had all those books.
Yeah. So it's all the more fascinating that the sixth highest grossing film of all time has done so minimal marketing with little more than just the image of Elsa and Anna.
The less they market, the more profit they can make.
I suppose that's true, but now it's kind of creating the opposite problem. The merchandise for Frozen gets put on the shelves and disappears quickly. I've had people tell me that while cast members were stocking Olaf plushes on the shelves, they were disappearing as they were putting them up.
Huh. That's interesting.
And there's a few places that still sell Frozen merchandise now, mostly books, the DVDs, the CDs, and a few lithograph sets, and that's about it. So, what is Disney trying to do? Are they playing it safe, or are they forcing artificial supply and demand?
I don't know if it's artificial demand, because it's demand that does exist and is apparently out there. Because if things are disappearing off the shelves as they're putting them on, clearly there's some form of demand.
Yeah, but they're not overindulging their demand like they did in the 90s.
Yeah, they're not. It's like I said before. The effort before was to try and get butts into seats and movie tickets to be sold.
Yeah.
Now, movie tickets are just sold because of social media. You know, people can tell everyone in their friend circle how good a film is. So that brings in even more people to see it.
I think you just touched on a very big point there that you were trying to get around earlier, but I didn't quite hear. You said social media.
Yeah, I think it's social media has caused a complete 180.
Ah, okay. But, still regardless, there should be at least a little bit more merchandise, although exactly of what and how much, I couldn't say because I'm not a marketing expert.
I think the marketing gurus are sitting there trying to figure out what's actually going to sell.
Yeah. Because, I think there's only so many Barbie doll Elsa and Annas you could sell before people are sick of them.
Not only that, but you have to think about some of the other characters in the movie. Are these characters marketable?
Yeah. I could just imagine that if Frozen was released in the 90s, there would have been a Mr. Potato Head spinoff with Olaf.
Yeah, that'd actually be kind of cool.
Right? So, yeah, Disney is playing it safe, and they're letting the social media do the talking, but I think that they're kind of being a little, I don't want to say stingy, but they're being very, very careful.
I think they figured out the market more, and honestly, I think it's mostly the existence of the internet that's created this.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to see if in this new age of internet and social media, will Frozen endure?
I think. Oh, actually, I just had another thought here. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all good.
I'm just glad that Frozen did not succumb to the same marketing disease as the Lorax did.
Oh my goodness, where it was on everything.
On the Mazda, at IHOP, and all those different companies that were using the Lorax to market it. Thank goodness.
Yeah, but that was sort of a different kind of movie, and that's an episode for another time.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with that question.
Alright, so let's get down to questions. Let's see, and final question. Number 8. TAP-G,
what?
Why do you talk like Olaf? Excellent question, Kyle from Tucson, Arizona. Well, it's very simple. See, I was actually hired by Disney to be the voice of Olaf originally. Yeah, true story. But at the time, Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee, the film's directors, had already hired Mr. Josh Gad. So I was hired just as an understudy. but he could sing a lot better than I could, so he sang in summer, but to help speed up production, I recorded a bunch of Olaf's lines during. But I was so good that I recorded all of Olaf's lines by the time Mr. Gadd finished recording. But as awesome as it was, I had to politely decline any involvement, since my number one commitment was to you, SurferClock, and to all of our wonderful fans. So, why do I sound like Olaf? Well, because, Kyle, I am Olaf, and I like warm hugs.
TAP-G,
Yes?
why are you making stuff up?
Why, whatever do you mean?
You cannot be seriously suggesting that you were the voice of Olaf in Frozen.
Prove I wasn't.
Well, for one, we've shared the same office every day for the past 2 years. When did you ever have time to run off to California to record lines for a Disney movie?
Skype, bro! That can be done in this day and age.
And why is Kyle's question in your handwriting on a napkin?
Last minute submission.
And why is our inbox full of angry emails from Mr. Gadd?
Jealous much?
He explicitly states cease and desist or suffer legal ramifications.
Okay, fine. So I wasn't Olaf, but a boy can dream, can he?
You can when lawyers aren't involved.
I at least want my own Olaf plush.
I talked to Moolah the cash cow about that. Otherwise, it may be a while. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. I'm SurferClock.
And I'm TAP-G.
And we're What's the Attraction?
Well, our work is your vacation. The cold never bothered me anyway.
Oh, shut up.